And welcome to Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. I'm Richard Dugan, your host. Thank you so much for being with us here on the program today as we are endeavoring to go down a road that we haven't been down in a long, long time. We are having a returning guest. I'll tell you about him in just a moment. But first, let me tell you that we are here on Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m., for our special edition of Tell Me Your Story. We stream live at those times at richarddugan.com. We are on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, Blueberry, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and many other locations with the podcasts. And we're on YouTube, where you can watch these interviews as well. We hope you'll subscribe, but the greater point is we hope that you will listen. We hope that you will take the information in and share it with others. And also, we hope that you will maybe, I don't know if you can do this without subscribing, select notifications so that you're notified when a new conversation is posted up on the website, up on the podcasts, or wherever it is that we're putting these things. And we really appreciate the fact that you are part of what we are doing here on this program. We also encourage you, if you are able to do so, we would greatly appreciate any financial support you can provide us. We have a PayPal account. It is there for your security as well as ours. When they ask what email address to put in, to whom to send the support to, it's Richard at richarddugan.com. That's Richard at richarddugan.com. And we also ask that during this decade of perfect vision, that you spend time going within, listening to that still small voice. So we really do encourage you to be a part of what it is that we are doing here. And we would like for you to just listen to that still small voice within. It's a guiding light, if you will, or sound or impression, however you perceive that. And we certainly hope that you will take some time. One of our guests actually made the comment. They said, even if it's just 60 seconds, 1 minute, which I suppose you could do at a traffic light if it's a long traffic light. And we've got some of those around here in the Santa Barbara area. Be that as it may, don't do it while you're driving, while you're moving, okay? And with all of that being said, we want to welcome back to our studio, if you will, our microphones, after a long hiatus, so to speak, Mark Edward Pyle. And Mark, it is really a pleasure to have you back here on the program. It's been a long time since the last time we talked about one of the things we'll talk about today is the 88 steps. Great to have you with us.
Well, it's great to be here, Richard. I am thankful and grateful for you inviting me back on, and I am thankful and grateful for reconnecting with you. And it has been quite a while, and the journey has gotten exponentially better each and every day since the last time we have talked.
Well, I can attest to that as well from my side of the microphone, so to speak, or camera, if you're watching YouTube. You have not only the 88 steps, which we're going to talk about. We won't go through all 88 steps. We don't have that kind of time.
Right.
But you also have something else that we want to talk about, and I'm going to share this with our listeners. It has to do with the 7 Mastered Self Academy. Your mastered self awaits you. Ascension, which I want to talk about as well, what that means, what it is all about embracing your mastered self, your I am presence, recognizing the source in you is not replacing your God for you. It is embracing the God in you. And there's a big difference there. It kind of leads me into, I want to just throw this out there, that one of the brief analogies that I have often used when talking about what we talk about here, choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true, that we are free moral agents. We have free will. Yet at the same time, we seem to have certain philosophies on this planet that want to turn our will, so to speak, or control, or our life's events, I'll put it that way, over to some other power. When I worked 15 years for the Christian radio station back in Phoenix, I kept hearing that when good things happen to you, as they often would refer to them as good things, it was
Mhm.
God.
Right.
But when bad things happened, it was the devil, it was Satan, Lucifer, Beelzebub, whatever name you
Whatever
want to
they
give it.
called him.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I thought, well, wait a minute, whatever happened to free will and choice and so forth? And I came up with this analogy. You've got this believer of the philosophy, whatever it may be, walking around in this meadow. His hands are cupped out in front of him. If this were possible, holding his or her will and muttering with eyes closed, walking in a circle, so to speak, in the meadow, I just want to do God's will. I just want to do God's will. I just want to do God's will. And God, in his heaven or her heaven, is moved to tears that one of God's creation wants to do God's will. And the individual down in the meadow tosses their will up, and it floats up, and God catches it. And in this emotional state, God is compressing that individual's will down into the size of a baseball, and rears back and hurls down at this individual the equivalent of a 95-mile-an-hour Nolan Ryan fastball, smack in the head, and basically says to this individual, then do something with the life I gave you. You are not a puppet on a string being manipulated by forces you do not understand. Now, with that being said, if we are to embrace the God in us, first, do we not have to recognize who or what, not necessarily where or when, God, the creator, the divine, is?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We must first come to an awakening, so to speak, of source creator. We can call him God, Allah, whatever names that they want to give to the entity. It's source creator. And unless and until we awaken to the reality of source creator in our lives, we'll just keep going around in a circle like that person in the forest you just talked about, with our hands cupped and talking about I still want to do God's will. We'll just keep going round and round and round, because we need to realize that we are the sparks of the Almighty. We are the sparkles of the star that created everything, and we can shine our light without permission from source.
How does one begin that search? Now, I have been on my search. It's a little broader. I don't know how you can get broader than searching for God, but it's been a little broader in terms of looking for answers to those, I will call them personality generated or ego generated questions. But needless to say, I've been on my search since I was the age of 17.
Yeah, my search was initiated at the age of 13, and then I began the journey that I am continually on even to this day at the age of 16. And there really isn't a one specific way that we can start the journey. It's going to be unique for each one of us. Normally, it is some sort of event that's outside of yourself. It could be it could be a accident, it could be an illness, but normally it's some sort of event that is outside of yourself that is a trigger for the person, for the individual, to finally wake up out of the doldrums and to wake up to themselves. We have to believe that we are more than just flesh and bones and pus and veins and blood and water and all of that. We have to believe that we have purpose. We have to believe that we are here for a specific reason. And each time we incarnate, that reason changes. Some of us have incarnated multiple times. Some of us that are going to hear this may be your first time here. Fret not. You are right where you're supposed to be. And when it's time for you to awaken, I believe that is already in each person's individual DNA, and when the event or circumstance or happening happens, that's when you'll get on your path and on your journey and start to evolve up the evolutionary chain.
You know, to me, it's extraordinary, the journey that I've been on, and I know yours is the same. You say maybe the initial experience began for you at the age of 13.
Mm-hmm.
And I look back even earlier for me in my childhood when I had some, I don't know if they were dreams, daydreams, night dreams, what have you, of things that happened in those dreams that I look back on, I'm going, well, why isn't that possible? One of them specifically, and I have to tell you that, I was born and raised in Phoenix, Arizona, where when I was growing up, it wasn't quite so hot. Okay.
Right.
As the phrase goes, it was not the hellhole in terms of temperatures that it is now. But my dad took such great care of our lawn. And so my dream had this beautiful dark green Bermuda grass lawn in the summertime. And there I am as a little kid running around with all of the other kids, crystal clear blue sky on this particular day. And all of a sudden, and this probably was even before I rode my first bicycle. It might have been around the same time, but anyway, I just started pedaling. Now, I wasn't on a bicycle. I just started pedaling. And guess what? I started to go up. I started to rise. And I just kept pedaling. And I'm going, ooh, this is really neat. I like this, And again, I go back to, why isn't this possible? And I have a good friend who shares with me these different stories about how it is possible. It's just that we have to learn how to control those little motors on each of the cells of whatever it is, or molecules, because Absolutely. That's all you got to do. And it's not that I want to disbelieve him, but it's that I think that for example, I talk with another good friend of both this gentleman's and mine, I talk about the difference between magnetism and gravity. Now, my opinion is they're the same thing, because the earth has gravity.
Yes.
And when you jump up, okay, or if you jump from a high place down to solid ground, what have you, you're falling. So the question I ask is, are we being drawn to the surface? Or is it something else? And you hear about the yogis who have, the avatars who have learned how to levitate.
Yes.
And so forth and so on. And that's just one realm. I think of Jesus' comment to the disciples about how they said, wow, that's amazing stuff. Could you teach us to do that? And he says, this? Sure, I could teach you, but this is nothing compared to the stuff you guys are going to do down the road.
Absolutely.
And that to me is the ultimate, is the transformation in one's life. But let's talk a little bit about, I don't want to talk about the manipulation of the material world per se, but about how we can take our free will, take our awareness of the divine, take all of that which we, and you say, believe. I love Greg Braden. He talks about how one day we will no longer believe.
Right. We'll know.
We'll know. Thank you. We will know.
Yes.
So how do we get to that place so that we can begin to recognize that there is no dualism? Things just are what they are. No judgment, because dualism connotes judgment.
Absolutely.
It's bad. Oh, no, it's good. Ha ha. So talk to us a little bit about, and I know it's a lot to unpack, because I do that to all my guests. I throw 15, 16 things, but please share with us how do we begin that process?
Well, and I'm glad that you brought this up, Richard, because this is the most important part. Getting through 88 steps, getting through chakra consciousness, getting through all of that won't make a difference unless and until the individual has come to this place in their life. And it could be a place of disappointment. It could be a place of deterrent. It could be a place of restriction. It could just be a place of malaise. And you're at a crossroads, so to speak. You're at a at a literal, you may even be at a literal physical crossroads where there are two avenues or two choices or two opportunities that you are faced with, and neither one of them feels right. That is the place where, and when you get to that crossroad and neither one feels right, you paralyze yourself, you freeze yourself. It's a natural instinct, pick one or the other. But when you cannot pick one because both of them either both of them seem extremely right or neither one of them seems right, that's when you have to go in and check in with your soul. Most of humanity walks around unaware of their soul. Yes, we know we have something inside of us that keeps our temperature at 98.7 and make sure everything works properly. But really tapping into that still quiet voice, that's your soul talking to you, really tapping into it and really listening to what the soul has to say. I know that the soul of every individual has every great need, want, and desire, every great goal, every great active pursuit that each of us needs to do in order to fulfill ourselves on the soul level. If we just get past the noise of society, the noise of judgment, if we get past the judging ourselves versus our neighbors, judging ourselves versus our coworkers, judging ourselves versus family members, if we just get to the point to where we appreciate the who that we are, and we allow for the expansion of the who that we're becoming to come into place. We have to get quiet. We have to talk to the soul and then allow the quiet for the soul to talk back to us. That's the beginning. Without that, we're just going to be like that guy walking around in the forest with his hands cupped and with his will in his hand, talking about, I want to do your will, and they'll keep throwing it back up. We'll keep throwing it back up. No, we have to uncup our hands and allow our will, the soul, to guide us. And stop being guided by appetites and addictions and the things we see on television and things we hear. Allow the soul to guide you.
And to that end, what is the practice that you have used? Because obviously you're in a place in your life, as I am in mine, where I don't question it. Okay, which voice is that?
Right.
Who is that? Who is that? Because for example, my eldest sister passed away a little over a year ago. And right afterwards, I heard her voice. Hi, Richard. Hey, everything's okay. Everything's okay. My father passed away this past March. And I don't hear his voice, although I am so grateful that my mother and father in 2015 allowed me to interview them for this program, which has been heard by folks. It wasn't originally. My mother would not give her permission, but it was circulated amongst the family. Okay. So I know what his voice is, but I get impressions.
Yes.
And then when I think about my best friend that I grew up with through grade school, high school, and college, we stayed connected, we stayed friends, we stayed communicative and so forth up until his passing after 53 years. And I think about him. I don't get impressions. I don't hear voices, but every time I want to cry, I want to grieve. I want to cry over my friend Doug's, I call him Smokey, his passing. Every time I think about him, I start laughing because of how much fun we had in our lives.
Absolutely, man.
So there are three different experiences of three different people that I have known in my life who, thank goodness, I'm keeping alive by virtue of remembering them and then, of course, sharing them with our audience.
Absolutely.
So how do we identify that? We'll call it still small voice, still small impression, whatever the case might be, as opposed to some other voices that might be coming from what is often referred to as the monkey mind.
Absolutely. Well, and I want to share with you, I was raised by my grandparents in Central California, and I remember as a kid growing up, my grandmother had this beautiful afro, and she would sit in her chair and twist one piece of her afro. But I remember how it looked, and it always looked the same. And she made it to 103 years old, and she passed away.
Oh,
She passed
yeah.
away in 2009.
Mm.
And on the way back from her funeral, she showed up in the passenger seat of my truck with me as I'm driving
Ooh.
back home. And now, anytime I want to call her up, or anytime I want to feel the love and the of my ancestor, my grandmother, she'll show up in a cloud. Her afro, I can see it.
Mm.
There in the gated community where I live in here in Las Vegas,
Hmm.
there's a bunch of trees, and she's in like 6 or 7 of these trees. I just roll by, and there she is. So I know, and whenever I see her in the tree, if I see her in the cloud, I know that she is letting me know that whatever I'm doing, I'm on the right track.
Mm.
Being sensitive to your intuition, and I know a lot of folks may not know what intuition is, or may not know where it resides. It resides in your gut. I'm a gut player. I've
Mhm.
always been a gut player. When I am contemplating any major decision, I ask my gut to give me a hard yes or a hard no. And I know the difference between the two reactions. And I actually literally get a physical movement in my stomach region in response to this question. We have to tap into self mastery. We have to get a deeper understanding and awareness of self, and we must not be afraid to go on a path of self discovery. Most of
Yeah.
us are afraid to dig deep and go down a rabbit hole about ourselves, because we as humans, we always want the good to be portrayed. We always want the famous and the celebrity and all of that, but we want to keep the bad parts, or at least the things that we think are bad about
Hmm.
ourselves. We want to keep them hidden. We want to keep them to ourselves. So we have to get way past that. We have to get to the point to where I am who I am, and it's okay. And once you get to that place, and mine happened at age 16, where I didn't care anymore what anyone outside of me thought of me. I didn't care anymore about they're talking, telling people that I was weird, and I talked to the sky, and I said I can look at stars. I didn't care about that anymore. I started living my life to please myself, and I lived my life according to what I knew about me, not what everyone thought about me. We have to get to the place to where we are more concerned with what we know
Hmm.
about ourselves than what others think about us and what others project on us. Most of us don't know how to even fend off the projections from other people. And a lot of us walk through life and we wonder why we do this and why we do that. It's not even from your own soul. It's a projection somebody else projected onto you that you may not even known about.
Yeah.
So we have to be on a dedicated path of self-mastery, self-awareness, and self-discovery.
On the sevens is one of the elements we're going to talk about as we continue talking with Mark Edward Pyle. And the website, by the way, folks, if you'd like to find out more, on the sevens.com. That's ONTHE, the number 7, and .com. And we will be linked to that website as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story with Mark Edward Pyle. I'm going to share something that is fairly typical in most relationships. We have situations where things get a little heated. There's disagreements and so forth and so on. And my relationship with my present wife is no different. And this is folks. This is part of the self analysis of going within and looking at what we like to call the shadow side of self.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Shadow work is continuous, man. And the situation that you're describing, first I'm sending positive outcome energy to you and your wife so that y'all can navigate to and through the definition of this issue.
Mm-hmm.
We as individuals, especially when we're in intimate relationships and cohabitation and things like that, the souls, the energy of you is here.
Mm-hmm.
The energy of your wife is here. A lot of times we think that, oh, it's just automatic. My energy, your energy comes together. No, it's not. We should not look at it as it's just, instead of Richard and the wife, now it's just me and the wife. No, it's still Richard.
Mm-hmm.
It's still your wife.
Mm-hmm.
You have your energy. She has hers. Together, you have a marriage energy.
Mm-hmm.
However, you guys will always see things differently. You know how that goes. You can have 10 people stand on a street corner facing the intersection, and then you can stage an accident. And then you come and ask each one of them, and you're going to get 10 different stories because each person's perception. She is perceiving, I think what is going on is that she is perceiving hurt, not by what happened.
Mm-hmm.
The hurt is that you threw the pillow.
Mm.
It's not the fact that the pillow hit her. It's not the fact that before that happened, she flailed around and hit you. She is actually hurt because it got physical. Hers was inadvertent, and then yours was just a reaction.
Yeah.
You just reacted. Yes, you did hit her.
Mm-hmm.
No, you didn't hit her.
Mm-hmm.
So that is because the pillow hit her.
Mm-hmm.
You threw the pillow. So
right.
Getting to the point to where you guys can, because right now you can't even sit down and talk and get past the part of you hit me. No, I didn't. You hit me. No, I didn't. That's not how you're going to resolve this. You need to be able to sit down and say, listen, love, I made a mistake and I did throw my pillow over my shoulder.
Yeah.
I'm owning that I threw my pillow over my shoulder, and I own that the pillow hit you. And I feel that I can accept that you believe I hit you. We need to come to a table of compromise so that we can move forward from this. If you believe I hit you, I'm apologizing. If we can get to the crux of the issue of why we were having a row in the first place, then everything that happened after the initial row won't even matter anymore. So let's get to the initial row. Yes, I threw the pillow over my shoulder and the pillow hit you and I made a mistake. That because she is going to keep it in her head, and she's probably affected by the fact that she flailed and hit you too. And so there are a lot of things going on. And with some of our intimate relationships, most of the time the man is the doer, and you know, we're not emotional, we're ego driven, we are results driven. And the lady is the feminine one, and they are much more emotional. They see things through emotional lenses, where we see things through logical lenses. We can't put on the emotional lens glasses because we won't be able to see. And they can put on the logic glasses, but only after the emotion, the tide and the heat of the emotion has calmed down. And most of the time and what I'm sensing and feeling is most of the time it's a 3-day period between a row and then she's ready to come back, and then you guys can get civilized again.
And that's part of the work that I'm doing, folks. That is what I'm about in terms of what this program is about as well. And I you know, if there's a part of me that is hurt too.
Yes.
Just by virtue of the accusation, even though, as you have just explained, I did.
Yes.
I did. I own that. And it could have been with a brick or a pillow. Didn't make any difference. Could have been a feather.
It
It
could have been
doesn't
a
matter.
feather.
Yeah.
Yeah. Could have been anything. It was the act. It wasn't the actual pillow hitting her. It was that you responded in that way.
Exactly. That's it right there. And
Yeah.
what I find so fascinating in our society today is that we're doing that kind of thing on a regular basis.
Oh, yes.
And we're not willing to take a look and own the fact that, oh yeah, it's and I say this apolitically, bear in mind.
Yes.
I mean, for example, I own it because I choose to be in this relationship. And an individual, for example, who was our 45th president is going through whatever he's going through. And I say it this way, because he chose to run for the office. This is all on him because he made that choice.
Made a choice.
He made a choice. And I made a choice 25 years ago, 25 and a half years ago.
Yeah.
Or I am here talking with Mark Edward Pyle because 44 plus years ago, I made a choice to get into this business.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It isn't until, as you're putting it, it's not until we own those elements that we accept our responsibility. And boy, that's going to be a hard word for a lot of folks to swallow. It
is
responsibility. I take responsibility for being here and for my actions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Absolutely. And again, that nobody has a problem with taking accountability. I won the championship or passed the spelling bee or whatever. It's taking accountability like we're talking right now. Hey, I reacted out of anger or whatever I did, and I have to own that. I misspoke, or I didn't tell you the truth, or I stole this, or whatever it may be. We have to first stop judging ourselves. Stop judging yourself. You won't be afraid to speak your truth and speak the truth, which is different. Your truth could be a bald-faced lie. The truth is always the truth. So it's different, because I talked to a lot of people say, oh, I'm speaking my truth. I said, yeah, but your truth is wrong. Your truth is wrong, so we have to, and it's all about accountability, all about responsibility.
That's
all
really what it's
about that. And unless and until we get back to that, and I think that is what has happened to American society as a whole and to the world in general. We've gotten away from being accountable and responsible for our own individual actions, which lead and blow up into governments and world politics and all of that stuff. We have to get back to personal accountability.
We're going to talk more about that, but we're also going to dive into On the Sevens as well as the 88 Steps as we continue talking here with Mark Edward Pyle, and onthesevens.com's his website. We will be linked to that website as well as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. Mark, I want to ask you, first of all, on the Sevens. Now, there's a local news talk station in Los Angeles, news talk station that I don't know if they do this anymore. They may still do it. They do their traffic, only they do it on the fives.
Right.
I don't think you're doing traffic on the sevens, which means it's 7, 17, 27, 37, 47, 57 after. Describe for us.
Okay.
What is on the sevens?
All right. On the sevens takes on an entirely cosmic or esoteric meaning when we look at all of the sevens that affect our daily lives while we're alive here in 3D. Everybody who incarnates is subject to varying cycles as long as we're here. And the number 7 is very significant to each of us on this planet. Here are some of the examples of number 7 in different ways it affects our lives. There are 7 soul types according to the day you're born. Individually, we each have 7 self-personalities that make up our master self. We have a spiritual, physical, mental, emotional, intellectual, vocational, and sexual or interpersonal self. Internally, we have 7 major chakras: root, sacral, solar plexus, heart, throat, third eye, and crown. Also, individually, we have 7 52-day planetary periods each birth year that starts on your birthday. So if you're born today, you're in Mercury for 52 days, and then Venus, and then Mars, and then Jupiter, and then Saturn. It just moves on like that. Also, individually, we each have 7-year, 11-year, and 13-year personal health and vocational life cycles. So we all are in concurrent patterns of 7-year, 11-year, and 13-year personal cycles. The one that everybody takes for granted is there are 7 days in every week. And inside of every day, we each have 7 3-hour and 25-minute daily period cycles. So becoming aware of each of these as they pertain to you in your daily life allows one to stay cosmically aligned with the universe or source or creator or God, however you want to call it, and your own unique universal vibration and frequency. And then on a personal note, I write my own mastered self numerology. The name Mark, M-A-R-K, it adds up to 16. And then you see from my Zoom moniker, the name Pyephreius adds up to 61. 1 plus 6 equals 7. So as a personal practice, I do everything on the 7s. 7 is the number of truth. 7 is the number of research. 7 is the number of alchemy. 7 is the number of just being your spiritual self. 7 is your spiritual number, and the 7th dimension is where all the spirituality in all of the cosmos is where it resides.
Okay, well, I get that, and of course, a lot of people, they think that they believe that 7 is a magic number, a lucky number, those kinds of things. Obviously, we have the wonderful convenience store with one of those as well. But you also have the 88 steps.
Yes.
That's a lot of steps to have to walk up if you're walking up 88 steps every day, 5 days a week, going to work kind of thing. But talk to us about these 88 steps, how you came to this awareness of 8 or 88, and what are some of those steps?
Okay. The number 88 is the master number of mystical mastership, mastery of self, and of the mastership disciple. Our souls are glorified or destroyed by our own thought power. Thought is power. It is under our free will to discriminate in our use of it. The master number 88 builds truth with honest simplicity, and it allows individuals to get to know their inner selves at the soul core level, and to have their positive urges expressed in art, science, music, or literature, always in calmness and balance. To grow slowly and completely is the responsibility of this master number of 88. Now, how we get to the 88 steps into your master self, there are 88 recognized constellations in our universe, from Andromeda all the way through Vulpecula. And I believe, and I know that there are 88 soul ascension steps each soul must make in order to reach ascended master status, thereby being able to decide if you want to incarnate again or just allow your essence, vibration, and frequency to influence select souls that are still ascending up their evolutionary path in their journey. Similarly, there are 88 steps that must be taken by each individual during each incarnation to energize, equip, and empower our I am presence, our master self. That's what I call the master self, your I am presence. From the initial awakening all the way through to the invocation, I've developed 88 steps. Some of the steps are as simple as, like, one of the steps is going out, even if I tell folks, this is not about belief or non-belief. This is about self-awareness. One of the steps is go out and get yourself a professional natal chart and a professional numbers reading from professional readers, just so that you have this information about yourself. Another one of the steps is when we're doing our healing, healing the childhood traumas and the other traumas that we acquire as we grow up and develop, is one of the major portions of the 88 steps. One of the steps in my program is to write a letter to your trauma. I had a very brief yet intense addiction to crack cocaine in the late 80s, early 90s. It was about a 3.5 year period where I was just doing my thing. And a few years into me, 2012 was when I got plugged into the cosmic zapper and got zapped with my mastered self. So I began to do some of this internal healing. And one of the letters I wrote was to rock cocaine. I wrote a letter to the woman that molested me when I was 8 years old. I wrote letters to my mother, letters to my grandmother, letters to any type of trauma. I've wrote letters to some decisions that I made. And as a way of, once you write it out, you are energizing your healing. You are sending it up to the cosmos, up to God, so that they can wrap it up for you and heal all of the hurt and send it down back to you, so you can feel that wound that's in your soul. You can fill it in with the loving presence of your I am presence. So some of the steps are like your physical steps. Some of them just take a physical inventory of what you have done in your life physically from the time you've been 7 years old up until the time you start the program. Some of them are very simple. Some of them are not so simple, because there are peaks and valleys and highs and lows that we all go through. And then honestly, there are certain things that each of us has done that are very, very, very hard for us to come back and face. You have to be willing to face all of yourself. And I'm taking this from Clint Eastwood. You got to be able to face the good, the bad, the ugly, and I added something else to it, and the unexpected. And we go through that in these 88 steps.
Absolutely. Where can we find out more about these 88 steps, or for that matter, find these 88 steps? What's do we go to your website?
Go to my website. You send me or they could just send me an email at 88steps@onthesevens.com and tell me that you're interested in the 88 steps, because I do them. They're 88 in number. However, once I get your initial information, I know what order they need to go into. So I have to, they just don't go 1 to 88. There is,
I see.
So I will get, you will send me an email. I'll get some information. I'll run some initial reports for you. We'll talk about a few things. And then once we have an initial consultation, then I'll know just where to put your 88 steps in what order. Because again, when we incarnate here, like this time I incarnated here, I know that I have a least amount of steps to get to where I'm going to Ascended Master Stage. So I may have incarnated in needing only 22 steps. Somebody may incarnate need 5 steps. Somebody may need 50 steps. It just depends. And we can tell that by running your natal chart. And then I regress your natal chart backwards to find when it crossed a parent line with your last incarnation. And then I could tell from your last incarnation where you are on your evolutionary path, thereby putting only the steps in there that you need. There are 88 in total, but like I said, Richard, you might only need 5. So there would be no need for you to go through the other 83. You know what I mean?
I like that. The fewer the better, but by the same token, I do have to say that in what you've shared thus far on the program, I am, I am already envisioning the conversation that I'm going to have, starting
Yes.
out with basically, I am sorry. I
Yes.
apologize.
I apologize.
Okay. Without any equivocation, without any explanation, just I apologize.
Yes.
And then going from there and recognizing and taking responsibility for, yes, you are correct. My perception. Okay. My perception was different than yours.
Yes.
However, on, shall we say, closer review or further review, I recognize that what you are saying I did, I take responsibility for that. And yes, I did.
Yes.
And then going from there. And for a lot of folks, especially men, that is a hard one to that's a hurdle that's very difficult to get over. Some people think it's too high, but I find it fascinating, and have seen on a few programs in the last few years, maybe decade or so, television programs, movies, and so forth, where more and more men in these roles are being portrayed not just as tough guys, strong, the masculine aspect,
Right.
not so much macho, okay,
Right.
but then also that, I'll use the word vulnerable side.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, because we are macho, and we are providers, and we are rough and tough, and yet we are soft, and we are vulnerable, and we do have emotions, and we do have esteem issues, and we do go through all of those things. Yet we as men, especially here in America, we're taught to just rub some dirt on it and keep going. You better not cry, especially guys in our age range. As society has gotten older, yes, there's been a softening, but guys from our age range, it was like, just rub some spit on it, rub some dirt on it, and get back out there. What's wrong with you? You don't need no Band-Aid, just go. Right.
Yeah.
And so it is more difficult for a lot of us men to get here. I was a crybaby as a kid, man. So I always was vulnerable, and I always was sensitive, and a lot of my tears were out of anger. They weren't out of pain. I would just be so mad about certain things, and I've dealt with all of that, and I've processed through it, and I went through some therapy. 2022 and 2023, the best decisions I made for myself was seeking therapy, and I am advocating for any and every male that is listening to this show or listening to a replay. Even if you don't think you need it, go talk to somebody. Go seek some therapy. Open up that can of worms from your childhood and get honest. Get honest about your childhood. We fantasize and glorify and spread the vision of our childhood, when in all actuality, my childhood wasn't bad, but it wasn't this great adventure that I used to hold on to. When I started telling the truth about my childhood, the trauma, the drama, the stress, everything in my life just went away, man. Everything went away. Yeah, it did. Well, getting honest about your childhood and dealing with those things that traumatized you as a kid is the very, very, very beginning of your natural health and healing.
I remember one of my guests, and we got into this conversation in that regard, and I was sharing with him my experiences of my father. This was shortly after his passing. And, and the best word I can come up with, he was really interrogating me, wanting to, almost like he wanted to get the dirt. It was like the inquirer of sorts, but it was in a loving way. He was doing this because he was genuinely interested. And I kept telling him, I says, no, my father and I were never estranged. Yeah, there were a couple of encounters when I was young,
Hmm.
when he used the belt, and the discipline, that kind of thing. But he was always there. He was always there. I mean, one of the memories that I shared at the memorial, my father's memorial, and I remember this. I mean, I couldn't have been more than maybe, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years old.
Hmm.
And I had this purple bunny rabbit, stuffed bunny rabbit. It was a small little thing you could hold in your arms. And I lost it. I misplaced it. I didn't know where it was. And I was outside in the carport. I can't remember if I was sitting on the concrete or there was a little bench or something. And I was there and I was crying. And my dad came up and he just was consoling me. He just said, hey, we'll see if we can find it. It's all right. And that's what I remember about my dad more than anything else, is the fact that he was there, in spite of the fact that my father, in later years after his retirement, would share with me that he gave all the credit to my mother for raising us,
Hmm.
because he didn't think he was there. It's like,
Hmm.
wait a minute. He wasn't a salesman traveling.
Right.
He worked a 9 to 5,
Right.
and he was there in the evenings for dinner. We always sat down for dinner at a table that he built. It actually was 2 tables that we would put together and hold together with C-clamps, and then we put the tablecloth over it, and so on and so forth. And we would sit there and have dinner. Ironically, we all sat in exactly the same seat for the years that I lived with my
Yeah.
parents. Well, I still never understood why they put me next to my one of my younger sisters, who was ambidextrous,
All right.
but she liked to eat with her left hand, and I'm right-handed,
Oh,
and
yeah.
she
So,
was on my right, and I'm going, why isn't she on the end?
right.
Anyway, but that's what I remember about my father. My mother, on the other hand, she was, I would almost say, even though she was the nurturer and so forth, and even in these years, dealing with the loss of her husband, my father, um, she has developed, and this is interesting. I want to have you talk about this. She's developed this, I want to say, protection.
Hmm.
I was talking to her about a situation, and it was like I was telling her about the bad and the ugly.
Hmm.
And she stopped. I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to hear about it. Now, if you want to talk about, if you would like some advice or some encouragement or inspiration, I am here.
Right.
But I don't want to hear about all of the negative stuff. I don't want to hear all of that stuff. And at first, my reaction was, "Mom," I didn't say this, but it was in my head. I go, "Wow, okay. I don't know that I can talk to you about much of anything." And then it began to sink in, to where the next communication I had with her was with a text,
Hmm.
to which I said, I started out by saying all good news, and then I shared with her the good news. And then the next time I called her, it was the same thing. Okay, no negative. It's just good stuff, And she laughed. She thought that was hilarious. Um, but we tend to put that on ourselves all the time. The negative, we'll take it in from so many different sources that we really don't need to be doing, right? We need to basically get into a position where we don't keep putting that stuff in the negative. You know
Right.
what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So it's something that I think that we really need to begin to better understand, as far as our role and our place in the universe. And I'm really hoping that we are able to do that. Um, and the work that you're doing is actually putting with your on the sevens and the 88 steps. It's part of the
Yes.
process of doing just that.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And I want to share with you, I'm currently developing what I call the art of absolute living. And it is going to thoroughly bless people. And it is going to be a blueprint of how to how to get out of the rat race of the comings and goings of the world, yet still be able to deal with doing the things you have to do to secure yourself. So it's going to be a powerful piece of work. It's called The Art of Absolute Living. That's coming out. That will be coming out spring of 2024.
A lot of good stuff that we'll talk about that. Have you back on, and we will talk
Absolutely,
more about
brother.
that as we continue here on this program we like to call Tell Me Your Story. One of the things I would like to do right now is remind you folks that you are listening to Tell Me Your Story. We're talking with Mark Edward Pyle, Mark Edward Pyle. It's on the7s.com, the website. You can find out about the 88 steps. And of course, you can send an email if you're interested to finding out the order and what 88 steps to take by emailing 88 steps at onthe7s.com. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. Before we let you go, and I don't know if you recall the last time we got together, I had these questions that I like to ask at the end of the program. And the first of those questions is, who is Mark Edward Pyle?
Mark Edward Pyle is a 60-year-old 60-year-old I don't know, a 60-year-old spiritual guy who just wants to help folks get connected to their soul, want to get away from all of the false labels and all of the things that misrepresent who we truly are. And I just really am just a guy that wants to teach people how to breathe right, how to eat right, how to live right, and how to connect with their soul.
What is your life's purpose?
My life's purpose is to teach everything that previously was a secret, to teach it to the masses.
And finally, what was your best day?
Since I believe that every day on this side of the dirt is a great day, I will say my best day has been hanging out with you today. But really, honestly, the best day for me was September 21st, 2012, when I did not refuse the invocation and the transition of my mastered self into my body. That was my best day. When I came fully aware of my I am presence. Yeah, that was the best day, because that's when all of this started. That's when the healing of the colon cancer manifested. That's when the less stress manifested. That's when all of this started, was September 21st, 2012. That up to now, that's been my best day.
Well, we'll have to have you back to talk more about that and the other work that you're doing, including the new material that's coming out in the spring of 2024. And I thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me again, Richard. I'll be here on your show anytime you want. And if you want to email me offline, I can do some extra astral work for you and your wife, so that I'll soften up that table of compromise for you before you even go in there to sit down to talk to her.
I'll tell you what, I will send you that email right after the program.
Thank you very much, man.
And I thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World, where we're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. And until our next broadcast, podcast, videocast, as I have said on this program many times to pay homage, love to Lal. Jeanette, I am still listening. Dad, continue to be happy. Smokey, I'll see you on the other side. And to my dear friend Zorro, aho. Aho.